Hi, and welcome back to this final part of the ranking, the huge, ungainly others category, or miscellaneous, or whatever the heck I named this. So it's a few days after the last time I recorded, and I kind of made the decision already that I wasn't going to do any editing on the rank board yet. Now, what I'm going to be doing is that I'll be just going through the games in the order that GIMP kind of puked them in, which is mostly the alphabetical order, except there was one weird rando that ended up in a kind of a weird spot. So we're going to be starting. The first one is going to be kind of a weird one we're going to starting with, and once, because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, once we run out of room in a specific ranking. Then I'll cut it off here, do a little bit of editing magic. And sorry for that previous two parts, I've actually been editing them together already, and I noticed that parts of the rank board were not visible when I was recording, and that kind of sucks. But anyway, we'll deal with that as it goes along. So, I'll actually zoom in a bit on the rank board as well. I kind of like seeing all these box arts. This is always my favorite part about the tier list is how it all just kind of comes together in the end. Although it's kind of transparent, like in what order I've been putting these in, but you know, whatever. Okay, so the first game we're gonna start with today, like I said, I'm gonna just go in the order that they're in GIMP, and weirdly it's through this one into the next one, but then after that the other ones are in alphabetical order. 0, the Kamikaze Squirrel, by Sunsoft, or published by Sunsoft. Actually, it was developed by a company called Iguana, I think. I'm not fully sure. And this is a sequel, or more like a spin-off of a game called Aero the Acrobat. Now, I've never ever played Aero the Acrobat, but I did play this as a kid, so I have a fair bit of nostalgia with this great soundtrack. Gameplay is a little hit or miss, I'm gonna admit. It's kind of all over the place. I love the art style. I think this game has a lot of tude, if you will. It reminds me a lot of another game that we're gonna get into in this part of the ranking. Now, where to put this? This kind of falls into a kind of category similar to something like Green Dog, which is because I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I like it. So, but I will admit it's not like an especially great game. It either goes here into the decidedly mid or neato territory, because this game is a bit mid in the gameplay sense. It's a little bit slippery. There are problems with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm admitting to that. I'm actually in a bit of a pickle now. I'm not entirely sure where it deserves to go, because I'm looking at Pinocchio down here, and I think in a similar way this game has great production value, but it's not really like a great game. But you know what, I do like it the slightest bit more than these games here, the Darkwing Ducks and Pinocchios, and I would even say I think this is still better than Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. So it's not a great metric to go by, but on those metrics I'm going to put it here. All right, then this next one. This is another kind of a weird one. The Addams Family by Ocean, the NES game. Fun fact, you know, I have done a video about this game for this channel that was intentionally done in the style of my friend Ken Aqualung Game Reviews' style. It was just the kind of game where when I played it the first time, I kind of weirdly got the sense like this is exactly the kind of game that I would love to see Ken make a video out of, and he hadn't. So I decided, well, hell, I'll do it. The hardest part about that was that I hadn't beaten it, and I have this as a physical copy. My sister Minna got this for me a few years ago, and you know, don't get me wrong, this is not an especially great game. It's a bit weird. It's a bit of and it's barely a platformer in my opinion. It's actually kind of more akin to an adventure game in the sense that it involves puzzle solving and finding your family members. But I think it's legitimately quite a fun game, but it does have a lot of technical imperfections. I think it's neat. I'm wondering now, should I put it in the Nito territory? Because I kind of like it because I can pretty easily wrap my head around it. I know what I'm, and part of the fun in this is in my view, figuring out where to go and what to do. By the way, I just realized there's one more game that I should be adding. So I don't know. This is a real tough one for me. You know what? I'm gonna be a little blunt here. That I like this game, but I don't think it's especially great. I think there's a lot of problems with it. So here I'm gonna put it in the decidedly mid. I enjoy this, but I think here I have to draw a line somewhere. I do think something like Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel is a legitimately better game than this. Then BioMenace. This is from wait. Yes, Apogee. I was trying to wonder. No, was it id Software? But no, this is by Apogee. So this is kind of, I would almost call this a Duke Nukem adjacent title because it's very similar to Duke Nukem. In fact, it's kind of like a midway point between Duke Nukem 1 and 2. And yes, we're going to be talking about those Duke Nukems in a minute. I think this game has a fun art style. It's honestly really goofy. That's my main thing that I like about it. Gameplay, though, is a bit awkward. I would say that is by far the biggest thing holding it back. And then the level exploration is kind of all over the place. It's fun, but it's really challenging. The difficulty spikes up really quickly on this one. So I don't know. This is a bit of a hard one for me. There is music, which is already a big plus because a lot of DOS platformers don't have music. But I think it has to go here in the decidedly mid, though. It's fun for a little while, but it's kind of like I always kind of like have to build my way up before I start playing it. It is still better than the Mega Man DOS games. Don't get me wrong, but it has its own problems. Now, Bonk's Adventure, this of course is a TurboGrafx game. Bonk was the mascot of the TurboGrafx 16, or rather the Japanese version, which was the PC Engine. Now, this game has good production quality. I think it's quite cute and it's fun. It's a fun game, but I do think though Bonk was a bit of a franchise that lacked decisive identity. It's one of those games that, it's fun to play for a while, but it's not like one of my absolute favorites. I always have a little bit of a, these caveman platformers are always kind of a weird subgenre. I do have one of me playing this. I didn't get very far because I was honestly quite terrible at it. It'd been really long while since I played it the previous time, but it's a fun game. It's neat. So I'm thinking it should basically be okay to go into the Nito territory, but I didn't get very far, so I don't think I don't think it's a bit of a toughie. You know what? I think decidedly mid is okay for now, because I don't have such strong feelings towards Bonk as a game or a franchise. Maybe I need to play it a little bit more. That's the thing. Talking about these games has made me want to play a lot of them and go revisit them, and it probably will soon after this. All right, A Boy and His Blob. This is a remake of a kind of an obscure NES puzzle platformer, but it's a really good one. Really good production quality on the sprites, and it involves a lot of problem solving, which I love. This is a very unique game. I think it instantly goes into the it's alright territory. This is really a grade above all these other games. I haven't played it in a really long time, but I remember enjoying myself a lot. This was kind of a weird one because Boy and His Blob, the original, which is not here because I haven't played it in ages, and honestly, I wasn't very good at it. But it's weird because it wasn't like a huge series, it wasn't like a huge game. It wasn't like, it's one of those weird games, one of those weird retro things. Like, if you're vaguely aware of what was on the NES, you will probably have heard of A Boy and His Blob. But it's not like a grade A, it's not like one of those all-time classics that everybody talks about. Unlike this one, from Taito, it's Bobble. I love Bobble. Every single version. It's Again, this one was a bit of a. I was actually wondering whether or not this counts as a platformer technically. There's going to be a few borderline cases, but there is you are jumping on platforms and eating enemies, and you jumping on platforms is also part of the gameplay. It's a really cute, fun game. Now this is a hard one because it's very basic though. It was an arcade originally, and it plays with it's a late '80s game, but it's single screens all the way through. And Taito did make other games that use the same kind of game mechanics as Bubble, but I don't think any of them were like that, as much fun, because this one is just cute. This is like a cute, fun game. And it's a lot of content for such a kind of a minuscule game. You know what? I don't feel confident enough, in the same vein as these Donkey Kong arcade games, because I kind of lump it together in that even though this was for almost a decade later, still within the 80s, but several years later, I don't feel confident putting it in the it's all right territory. I think this is just a neat game. It's just a neat game. I'm gonna put it there. Jock Rock. Now this one was I put the Mega Drive version of the box art here because I remember this distinctly from the Mega Drive. I played this a long, long time ago. It's a really fun game from Core Design. It's a bit basic, I will admit. This is another one where nostalgia is a big part of why I like it, but it has a really cool intro sequence with a great soundtrack. The Mega Drive version sadly lacks the intro animatic that was in the original Amiga version, and it's in some of the other console versions. There is a version of this on Super Nintendo as well. Never played it, but I do think some of the music sounds pretty neat on that. This is another one where I'm going to have to make a really tough call, because I love this. I actually have a full playthrough of this. Mind you, you can barely hear the music because I had terrible video settings on it. You know what? I cannot, in good conscience, put this much higher than Bonk's Adventure. But I will put it here in the neato territory because I do think it's a neat game. I love playing. This is another feel-good game for me. But it's very basic. There is not a whole lot to the mechanics. The most, in my opinion, is the rock chalking, where you have to make like platforms for yourself in order to advance. Then Congo Bongo. So I have played the original arcade version of this. I recently also played the Atari version of this. This is a kind of a Donkey Kong clone by Sega, but the gimmick in this one is that it's from an isometric view angle. And production value-wise, this is a good game. Honestly, the gameplay is not in my view as much fun as Donkey Kong. It's a bit like it's a bit like they got caught up in the gimmick. Isometric platformers usually aren't my thing, really. So I think this game is pretty mid. It's not terrible. It's not. I think you can have. I have a good time playing this for a short while, but eventually you want to go back to the well. Just play original Donkey Kong. Contra. Okay, I'm gonna have a bit of a hot take on this one because I don't like Contra. I don't. Even though it's a Konami game, and even though it's a shooter game, the biggest problem I have with this is just the one-hit deaths. And you're probably wondering, like, well, okay, why don't you just play with the Konami code? And, you probably could, but, it doesn't change the fact you still have one-hit deaths. I don't like that. And especially in a game, any game that has, like, a lot of enemies, like a wealth of enemies, where you get barrages of enemies that you have to avoid, and the enemies too shoot like projectiles, and you have one-hit deaths. Like, did it not occur to you that something like an energy bar, like that, what they have in Mega Man, is a thing? Because if you want to have a game that's punishingly difficult, that's fine. But God damn it, like I do not enjoy Contra. Contra is whatever for me. The music's good, whatever. And, technically though, so I've never played Contra on original NES because it didn't exist on the European NES, as it was called Probotector. This is one of those weird games that got censored for the European release. But now I'm in a bit of a pickle here. I could put it in the decidedly mid, because to be fair, it's not objectively like a terrible game. A lot of people like it. For me, it could be easily. I could throw it anywhere, but I do have to. But I have to recognize that even though I don't like it, I don't think it's like objectively so bad that it deserves to go anywhere else. So I'm putting it in the decidedly mid. I just don't. I don't like Contra. It's just it's not a game for me. Dragon's Lair by Elite, based on the Don Bluth Laserdisc game from the 1980s, and there were a lot of ports of this game. Most of them are bad, but this one is like especially offensively bad. Excellent production quality. The music and the graphics in this game are fantastic, and yes, I have a physical copy of this. This was the very last game we ever got for the NES, and my dad bought it from some store where the guy actually did warn him, like, that was going to be a tough game. Like, no fucking shit, it's tough. And Dragon's Lair, it's a bizarre game from the point of view that it's so slow-paced. Like, the character, Dirk, just moves so slowly. And it seems intentional. Like, the game, it does seem like that was supposed to be the pace of the game. But you gotta, like, ask, why? And speaking of one-hit deaths, like in this game, you have an energy bar, but it basically is meaningless because you get killed by most obstacles with a single hit. It's a game where it's impossible to really make any progress if you don't know the exact spot where it's safe to stand, if you don't know the exact distance from enemies that you can attack them, but they can't attack you. It's so much trial and error. Like, it's in a weird way, it's kind of like a perfect port of the arcade game, because the arcade game is all about trial and error. If you jump into this game blindly, you don't know what the hell you're getting yourself into. You're in for a really bad time. It is not a fun game. It's just like fundamentally just flawed. Like, putting this game anywhere except the very bottom rank. Like, okay, Dragon's Lair. Jesus, sorry, I kicked my toe. Okay, so Dragon's Lair and the Castlevania Adventure are pretty neck and neck for me as bad games go on this ranking. I think, like, Lion King, as much as I don't like it, I think there's still, like, some redeeming qualities to this. And even X6, I hate saying that because I really dislike this game. And Mario 2, like, yeah, I don't like that either, but, it functions at least like a real Mario game. That's what I'll be willing to say. Like, Dragon's Lair is, alongside Castlevania Adventure, it's by and away the worst game here that I've talked about. Alright, but now let's get into the Duke Nukems. And let's start with the original Duke Nukem, which is not very good. I'm sorry to say, I love Duke Nukem. I even like Duke Nukem Forever. And I still don't really like the original Duke Nukem. The problem really is the level layout and the fact that there's no music. You do hear Duke's footsteps. That's pretty much the thing that you hear for 90% of the game. It drives me absolutely fucking crazy. I think some of the graphics in this are kind of cute and fun. This game is still kind of overboard and silly, which I do like. But there is not a lot to go back to with this game. I'm sorry. This game, honestly, is just not very much fun. I have a little short Let's Play of this, one-off of me playing this, but my audio balance was really off, which, in a cruel way, does display, like, how bad the audio really is in the game. Like, you barely hear me because of the PC speaker bloops and bleeps. Like, okay, I usually complain that DOS games don't have, enough music or sound most of the time, but this game has a lot of bad sound. Now, Duke Nukem 2 is a good game. This is actually a legitimately really fun game. Really good production quality, and this one actually has music, but it's kind of cruelly difficult as well. That's my main complaint with it. But it is pretty decent. Now I'm in a bit of a pickle, though, where to place this one as well. This is another one that it's not really blatantly obvious. I don't come back to Duke Nukem 2 that readily. But I think putting it in the decidedly mid is a bit of an injustice against it, because this game is a huge leap over Duke Nukem 1 at any rate. And I think it is better than BioMenace. So on the back of that, I'm going to put it in the Neato. This is where our Duke Nukem franchise really started to get going. And then, of course, Duke Nukem 3D just took it in a completely different direction. On that note, here's Duke Nukem Manhattan Project. So this is a 2.5D Duke Nukem platformer. So it's the graphics are in 3D, and this is made very much in the style of the post 3D games. So John St. John's voice is all over this thing. Like, I don't think I need to say much more about it. It is a really fun game. I love the voice acting in this. I love the comedy. I don't think it's supposed to be like an official installment of the series. I think it's supposed to be like just a spin-off. But I do like that it does have the vibe of the latter-day Duke games, and that alone like elevates it in my view above Duke 2. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in the it's all right territory. I seriously like this game. I've gotten pretty far in it. I don't think I've beaten it though. I don't think I've gotten through the final boss, but I got pretty far into it. This game does have some bullshit difficulty parts, though, so you gotta get ready for that. But I think it's a great game. I think it's a fun game. EarthWorm Jim, and specifically the Mega Drive version because that's the one that I've played, but not on a Mega Drive. I've only played it on the Wii. I have played the PC version like a really, really long time ago, and I think I played a demo of EarthWorm Jim 2, but I don't think I've ever played the full game. I've even played a little bit of EarthWorm Jim 3D, but I barely remember it. So, another game with great production quality. Yeah, and I used to watch the cartoon, actually, all the time. It's actually the cartoon of this. I think I remember the cartoon of this a bit more fondly than the game itself. Because, I'm going to be honest, like, EarthWorm Jim has a lot of funny things about it. I love the sense of humor. I love the groovy. Well, you know how he yells groovy like all the time. I'm not doing a good impression of him there, but this game is a lot of tude. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of Zero Kamikaze Squirrel. But I think I would actually prefer Zero Kamikaze Squirrel over this. Like, and that's the weird thing. Like, this is one of those few games where I think the music in the Mega Drive version is objectively better than the Super Nintendo version. They did a kind of a weird port of that, and I don't know why the music sounds so bad because the Super Nintendo sound chip, 9 days out of 10 in my view sounds way better. But this is a rarity. Now I have to make a decision here because I do have to give this game credit because, like I said, I watched the cartoon show a lot, and all the things that I love the cartoon show for did come directly from this game. I think, the crazy off-the-wall enemies like Professor Monkey for a head and Queen Slug for a butt. Queen Slug for a butt. Nearly said something else there. And then there's the Dark Crow, the Evil Cat. I forget what his name is. Like, there's a lot of great detail in this. You know what? I'm going to put it in the Neato. I was seriously thinking about putting it maybe in the decidedly mid, but I do actually think this is a good game, so I think I'm going to leave it here. Indiana Jones: The Greatest Adventure. So this is one of the two LucasArts platformers, though I'm not sure, did LucasArts actually develop these? But this is made in the mold of those Super Star Wars games, but instead of having 3 games for each of the movies, they just lumped them all together. Now that, in my view, already kind of sucks about, is a thing that kind of sucks about this game because it is, trying to squeeze all 3 Indiana Jones movies into a single game. I just remembered I have Lego Indiana Jones. Okay, but kind of the same problem is like when you try to squeeze multiple movies into a game, you don't really have time to give any of them a lot of attention. But I do think this is a fun game. I think it deserves to go into the Neato territory, and that's unfortunate because it means I'm gonna have to take another recording break because now I have to extend Neato again because there are games that are definitely ending up in the Neato. I'm not in love with this game, even though I like Indiana Jones. And to be fair, I think this is the best Indiana Jones game that I have played. Like, people might remember that I don't really like the Indiana Jones adventure games that LucasArts made. But this one actually, good production quality, great sound clips. But there is a lot of bullshit difficulty in this one. But this is also a game where you can cheat with passwords. So that's at least one feather in its hat. In its fedora. Okay. So the table's starting to look quite ramshackle at this point because I keep having to add. And I appreciate the irony of, putting up, an extension to Nido only to not even put anything in Nido. And I realized I had to also extend Wahoo. And I was wondering, like, if I should start jumping around to get to the ranks where there actually is room. But, if I do that, then I'll lose track. I'm afraid I'll lose track of the games that I've already ranked, and so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so let's keep on with the J's, and Jazz Jackrabbit, the first one. I love this game. When I did my top 10 90s PC games, this topped out the ranking. And there's a reason for that. I love this game. You might argue that there are points that, Jazz 2 is more refined and everything. And sure, yes, it is. But I like Jazz 1 better. I like the soundtrack. I've ranked the soundtrack. I have, I have some videos of me playing this. Me and a couple of other of my YouTube friends tried to we tried to do like a that's no, I was about to say three-way, but a three-way or a co-op let's play of this where we each made an episode, but unfortunately my episode might be the only one that's still up. But oh yeah, actually I have played this on Twitch, so I have played this subsequently on Twitch multiple times. Maybe I should edit those together, or maybe I'll link it in the video description. We'll see what I'm doing with that. But I really love the first Jazz. I genuinely love. I love the simplicity of it. And this is a game, Jazz, obviously takes a lot of inspiration from Sonic. But I've never really found it, at least in the original Jazz Jackrabbit, I don't find that, that offensive. I think it's actually kind of cute, honestly. Now, Jazz Jackrabbit 2, I'm going to be honest, I'm just not that big of a fan of it. It's too easy. Like, the main levels, there's not enough of them in my opinion, and they're just way, way too easy. I do like the fact that you have new playable characters. I like both. Well, the Spaz was in the original version, and then Lori came in the Secret Files version, which is the one that I have. And I do love playing as Spaz. I think Spaz is really, really funny. And don't get me wrong, I do think the levels are great and everything. And I do think that I say the game's too easy, but actually the final set of levels actually are pretty tough. But I don't like the soundtrack nearly as much. My favorite songs on the soundtrack, I'm sorry to say, are the ones that they recycle from the first Jazz Jackrabbit. So I don't know. I do think this is still a fun game. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a bad game or anything, but I do believe that the highest I can put it is in the Nido territory. Like, it's fun, absolutely. I think it's fun, but it is a bit frustrating. Jill of the Jungle. Ooh, baby. Love that. I don't think this is a box art. This is some kind of a poster, isn't it? But this is the one. There's multiple posters and boxes of Jill, and some of them are quite unflattering. This one I like because it has her standard uniform from episode 1. She actually changes uniforms in all of her game appearances. Now, I think this is a kind of a goofy, fun time of a game, but it's very clunky. I will say, I have a full playthrough of this. I played this originally on Twitch, and then I edited the episodes together for YouTube. And each of the episodes has their own unique quirks, and also their unique annoyances, I'm sorry to say. It's, I think it's a fun game, and it's very rare to have like a platformer where the lead character is a woman. So I'd really want to give it more recognition, but it's so clunky. My favorite part about this game are the goofy sound effects, but I hate the fact that they changed the sound effects in every single one of the games. They couldn't make up their minds which ones they wanted to use. Like, don't get me wrong, this is a game that I would definitely pick up once in a while just for the hell of it. So this goes in the decidedly mid, but it's a bit of a begrudging entry, but I don't think in a good conscience I can put it in Nido. That seems like that's giving it too much more credit than it deserves. Jumpman, I think this is the wrong box for it because the version that I've played is the Commodore 64 version. Yeah, this looks like an Atari box of it. Anyway, Jumpman's a very basic one-screen platformer where you're trying to collect balls or these blocks, and then you progress to the next level and you try to avoid getting hit or falling off the platforms. It's very, very basic, but I think kind of neat. So that's why it goes into Neato. Seriously, this is one of the few Commodore 64 games that I actually actively enjoy playing, because the gameplay is actually, I gotta say, really solid. I don't usually get to praise the gameplay in C64 games, but this one genuinely is actually a good time. Now, Kabuki Quantum Fighter. This is by HAL, and this is a weird-ass game, because it was made originally as promotion for a Japanese movie, but it's not based on the movie. It's actually like a sequel to it. So it's set in the same world, but in the far future, and you wouldn't know any of this, and it doesn't really come to bear in the game itself. I have a full playthrough of this on my second channel. It's a really cool game. Excellent production quality. Actually kind of reminds me weirdly of Metroid, but actually with like even better production quality. Great music. Tough as balls. This game is really hard. But I have to put it at least in the it's all right territory, because it's actually, it's a lot of fun. This is a weird game because my brother-in-law played this as a kid a lot, and I think he's the one who got it for me as well. So I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a great game, but it is really difficult. Like the final boss is almost impossible if you don't have the right combination of weapons, and it's really hard to get to the boss with the right combination of weapons as well. So it's very unforgiving. It is quite, it's quite grueling. Then Kirby's Adventure. This is the second ever Kirby game. The first one is Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy, which I have played, but again, I stress, I have not played it since the 90s. I don't have a fresh take on it. I think that's the one where Kirby still didn't get like superpowers. He just ate enemies and spat them out. Now this game, completely unironically, is one of my favorite NES games. I'm not even joking. I played this for the first time not on an NES. I played this in the emulator days. But I put this in the same category as Rice Star. That it's a very late NES game, but because it was so late, it utilized all the best possible features of the system. The graphics are amazing. The music sounds great. I love the music. It's such a nice, cheery game. Lots of great levels, lots of great variety, and the weapons that Kirby uses are also great. I have no reservations of putting this in the top rank, the Wahoo rank. This is an underrated, underappreciated gem from the NES library. You need to play this game. If you have not played a Kirby game before, I haven't really played the Super Nintendo Kirbys that much. I played the Golf one, and I have played Kirby's Dream Land 3, but not a lot. This Kirby, on the other hand, I have played, and it's neat. It's neato. Pretty, yeah, it goes in the neato territory. This one's a little too easy. It's, I do like the weapon variety in it, but it feels like a, I have also played the Kirby game on the Switch. That one's fun, but I am honestly a little puzzled by why did it take that long for them to make a 3D Kirby game in the first place. It seems like making a 3D Kirby game on the N64 seems like such a no-brainer. And yet they didn't do it. They did a 2.5D one, which, don't get me wrong, good music. I think my favorite part about this are the cutscenes. The cutscenes are cute as hell. Awesome cutscenes, but it is a bit, it's a bit of a, I don't really come back to. Limbo. This is a kind of a puzzle platformer. So you have all these, you're this little boy trying to escape from all these monsters and things, trying to avoid getting killed. It's a very dark game, as you can tell. It's all in silhouettes. Again, similar to Boy and His Blob, I love the puzzle-solving mechanic in this. That's my number one praise for it, and actually because of that, I want to put it up here. Now, I have not played Limbo in a long while, but it's one of those games that's really easy to jump into because there aren't a lot of controls, and most of the puzzles are really, I wouldn't say easy, but they're kind of, when you work on it for long enough, you do figure them out eventually. And this game has great atmosphere. It's like, absolutely, in my view, I don't want to put it in the Wahoo territory because I haven't played it in such a long time. I feel like it would be dishonest of me to put it up there. But if I go back to this and notice that I still enjoy playing it, I might actually put it up there. Little Nemo the Dream Master. This is another Capcom one, based very loosely, I think, on the animated movie. And don't get me wrong, this has all the Capcom things in it, like the, good production quality on the graphics and music. Interesting gameplay, but this game is really hard. I would almost say that it's not even really that enjoyable because it's a little too hard. Once you know where to go and what to do, the game becomes a little bit easier, but it's still like, the game mechanics are not self-explanatory at all. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to put this in the Neato territory, because I do have a little bit of because when I do progress in this game, it does feel great, but it's a little bit of a hit or miss for me. And I haven't completed it yet. I have gotten pretty far, but I have not beaten it. So I have a hard time recommending this one to at this stage. Maybe in the future this has a potential of maybe getting into the Neato territory, but right now, as it stands, I would put it here. Mayhem in Monsterland. You might be thinking, what kind of third-rate Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff is this? And this is a Commodore 64 game. And yes, I do think they ripped off Sonic the Hedgehog for this. But it's more of in this one, you're running around in this colorful overworld. You're trying to find these dragons, and you're trying to bring color back into the world, and then you have to get to the end of the level. When I played this the first time, I did not like it. Once I knew what I was doing, it got a little bit better. I do think the gameplay is pretty okay. And it is easily one of the best looking Commodore 64 games. I cannot knock it for that, but it is not one of those games. It's not a game that you can just kind of jump into. I do think that there's a bit of a learning curve to this one. It seems very simple on the offset, but it's actually not. And I hate the exploration element in this. I don't think it's an awful game. I think this also goes in the decidedly mid for me because, I don't really enjoy coming back to this one either. Pitfall. Just very recently actually got to play this. Well, not recently, sorry. A couple of years ago, me and Aqualung, when we did the first set of those Atari with Aqualung games. That's when I played it. This game was fun. It's neat. It's neato. So I'm gonna put it in neato territory. It's very basic, obviously. It's an old game after all. You shouldn't expect the stars from it, and it's kind of difficult to figure out. It's kind of difficult to even get very far in it. But I like it. I think it's a fun game. But it might be a little bit too basic for some people. But absolutely, if you want to just see where platformers got their start, I think this is a fun game to start out. I don't think it does deserve to go into the decidedly mid territory. Now, the original Rayman, the version of this that I've played is Rayman Forever. Weirdly, I did not play Rayman back in the day. You'd think I would have because it was everywhere, but yeah, no. I've never really gotten that into Rayman. And Rayman Forever really didn't do a lot for me. I think it's a good-looking platformer, and that's about it. I don't really find myself enjoying it that much. I don't like the fist, rearing up your fist to attack enemies mechanic. It's a bit clunky in my opinion. It's good-looking, and I do like the fact that Rayman is one of those franchises that's made a comeback in later years. I do admire it for that it's had that longevity. But I do have to put this in the decidedly mid. I don't really love this game. Rocket Knight Adventures is another Konami one. And I think this game's kind of neat, but it's very challenging. But if you know what you're getting into, I actually kind of enjoy the challenge in this one. This is one of those that, yeah, it's in parts kind of bullshit difficult, but it's one of those games where I'm willing to kind of put up with the bullshit difficulty because the game legitimately is so fun, has such good production quality, great music. I have not played any of the other Rocket Knight games. I know there's one for Super Nintendo. But yeah, this is actually, I think, a lot of fun, and I think the main character is really cute. The rocket mechanic like does take a lot to get. It takes a long time to get used to, but once you do, it actually is a really really fun game. Rockin Kats. This is a bit. Well, I like this game. I think this game is cute, but it is a bit, janky. It has its imperfections. I will readily admit that this is not a game for everybody, but I like it. I like it a lot. But now I'm trying to decide where to put it. Because I get a huge kick from this, and I actually don't mind that it's a kind of a short game. I've also streamed this on Twitch. I don't think I've put up the edited version on YouTube. But I get a huge kick out of this. I like the visuals. I like the music. Okay, I do think that there's some obvious flaws with the graphics. There's some like nauseous color choices and things. So it looks a bit ugly in places. Like, I'm not gonna front about that, but I like the themings. I think this game has great theming with the levels and everything. So, okay, I'm trying. I need to take serious stock in where I'm gonna put this because it's gonna affect a few other choices that I have. You know what? I think there is enough. Like, I do remember getting a bit frustrated in some of the climbing segments, and the enemies do show up from pretty bullshit angles, and some parts of levels are impossible to do without the hover shoes. Okay, so there's a lot of flaws in this game. I like it. I definitely have a lot of affection for that game, but I can't. Okay, but now that I think about it hard, I've thought about it hard enough. I don't think in good conscience I can put it up here. If I get the hankering, I definitely will start playing this. It's one of those games that I do actually come back to. I really like it. Shantae, the Half-Genie hero. This is the only Shantae game I've ever played, and I like this one for the same reasons as Limbo and A Boy and His Blob. Great sprite art and problem solving and lots of transformations for Shantae. She turns into all kinds of animals. I love that mechanic. I'm not usually big into these platformers that are about a lot of exploration, but this one is really, really fun, and also got a bunch of cute girls in it. Like, are you surprised? I don't think you're surprised why I enjoy this game, but it legitimately is just a really, really good platformer as well. So, but I haven't played it in a while. I have not played it for a hot minute. So again, I don't feel good. This could almost get up to the top rank, but I think some of the story bits maybe are something that I'm not a big fan of, so I'm going to hold off on that. Okay, what do we got left here? I'm trying to see if, I'm eyeballing right now, one game that definitely goes there. Okay, I don't think we need a recording break. I think we can power through these final few games that I have here. Without problems. Okay. Snake, Rattle, and Roll. I adore this game. This is one of my childhood favorites. This is one of the first NES games I ever played. It's kind of an obscure one. It's another isometric platformer, but this one I think works because it has this weird sensibility to it. It's kind of hard to describe. You're a snake eating balls so you can grow bigger and step on the weighing machine so you can open the exit from the level, and then there's a Monty Python foot that's trying to squish you to death. It's crazy. It's crazy. Go nuts. Excellent music and graphics because it's by Rareware. It's one of their best. I think it's one of their best, most underrated games. Like if you have the Rare Replay Collection and you have not played this game because you don't know anything about it, absolutely try it. I also found out a few years ago that there's a really obscure Mega Drive port of this. I actually would like to try that out. But I'm not going to put it in the top ranks because it's a bit of an arcadey title. It's a bit similar as the Donkey Kongs and what have you, but I think there's a slight step up. So I'm willing to put it up high there on those merits. Superfrog. Okay, this one I'm really torn on because I really like this game, but the version that I've played is the DOS one. I have played the Amiga version like a long time ago, and the Amiga version has an intro animation by Eric Schwartz, who does this comic called Sabrina Online, which I've been reading consistently for many years. He was a big Amiga guy, don't act surprised. I like this game, I really do, but there's no more room in the It's Alright category And, you know, the gameplay's a little clunky. So I'm going to put it in the Nido because I genuinely love the graphics and the music. I think this is a really, really cute game. I get in a good mood immediately playing it. But it is very clunky, and the DOS version is, you know, like, most people will tell you the DOS version is like the worst version. I don't care. I still like playing it. Now, Super Pitfall, one of the worst NES games. You know what? I kind of get like a bit of a kick from playing this, though. So it is bad. Don't get me wrong. Me and Aqualung, we played through the whole game on his channel where I was guest hosting. It's not a good game, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it. You know, maybe it's the masochist in me, but this is a bad game that I kind of get a kick out of. So I'm gonna put it in the pretty meh. Ken would probably put it all the way down here, but you know, but I'm gonna put it in the pretty meh because it is pretty meh. Don't get me wrong, like it's not a good game, but yeah, I got a kind of a kick out of it. Okay, Super Star Wars. This is another one. I think this is from the same guys that did the Indiana Jones game. Now, I kind of regret what I said about Indiana Jones because I was criticizing it, but actually, Super Star Wars is a bit of this game's a bit bullshit too. Like, great production quality, don't get me wrong, but this one's barely a platformer because you don't really get to die in a lot, and it's really hard too. And unlike the other Super Star Wars games, this one doesn't even have a save game. This is the only one that doesn't. You actually do have to play through the game with all the continues that you have. I think, however, this is, as much as it pains me to admit, this is actually the best one of the Super Star Wars game. So I was talking shit about Indy before, but at least Indy, it's a consistent 3 games in one package. The Super Star Wars games are pretty ruthless. I have to put this in here in the Nido territory. I do think this is the best one. I do like this one better than all the other Super Star Wars games, so I have to put it here. Super Empire Strikes Back. I hate this one. This one sucks. Well, the first half sucks. The parts on Hoth suck, which still it pains me to admit that because that's my favorite part of the movie. Empire Strikes Back is not my favorite Star Wars movie. That's Return of the Jedi. But it's like my second favorite, and next to Episode 1. And Hoth is my favorite part about it. That's the one, when I watch this movie, I absolutely love Hoth part. Honestly, the second half of this movie is always the one that I have a hard time with. And here the wheels kind of come off the Super Star Wars experience because the cutscenes make no sense in this. It's kind of like the best of moments. Like, they have characters say lines from the movie. But in the first Super Star Wars game, they explain, like, this is why we're going here. This is why we're going here. This is where... It follows the logic of the movie. Here they don't do that. They just throw random scenes from the movie at you. Like, sure, you know, you will have to have watched Star Wars to even care about this game. But it's not a really good representation of Super Empire. I'm sorry to say. It is absolute garbage, this game is. Well, okay, not absolute garbage. Like, the game gets better in the second half. So the later parts of it, actually, when you start using force powers, and I like the Vader fight and everything, but this is still, this game is not very good. I don't like this game at all. So I'm going to put it here in the pretty meh. Now, Super Return of the Jedi. Ironically, this is the only one that I did play on the Super Nintendo, and I don't think I ever got past the first level, because the first level is a vehicle stage, and the vehicle levels in all of these Super Star Wars games really suck. Even the ending of Super Star Wars, where you get to blow up the Death Star, that one is not very good. This game is a marked improvement over the first one, in that it's not as bullshit hard, but in this one, the levels are huge, and you get lost in them a lot. And that's why I don't like it. Even though I love Return of the Jedi, even though it's my favorite Star Wars movie, I don't like Return of the Jedi enough to put up with the garbage in this game, and that's why it's better than Super Empire. It's not as good as Super Star Wars, so it lands right in the middle, decidedly mid. This game's also garbage. It's Tomb Raider, the first of the Tomb Raider games on Game Boy Color. I think there were 2. Terrible gameplay. You die way too easily. I have a super old review video of this. Don't go watch it. It's not very good. I'm wondering, I do think this is so bad of a game that I think it does deserve to go down here into not good, as in bad. It's real bad. It's real fucking bad. Ufouria, this is the last one. Now, this is weird. This might be the only Metroidvania that I've ever actually beaten, and it's on the NES, and it's by Sunsoft. It's about these cute characters. I think these guys have appeared in some other games. Ufouria the Saga, great production quality. Requires a lot of exploration, and can be a bit difficult to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. But me and my sister, Minna, a few years ago on one Easter, we played through the entire game, and I think it's actually pretty fun, pretty cool. Now, I'm wondering, does it deserve to go... I don't think it deserves to go all the way up there, though. It's right in the middle. It's shockingly good, and that's why I remember, when I remembered it, I decided that, oh, fuck, I have to absolutely have it here, because I've beaten this entire game. So, this is a really hard one. I don't think, putting it in Nito, I think is honestly a bit of a disservice to it. It is that good. Okay, there's a little bit of room down here, so I'm gonna, like I said, I don't want to take another recording break to make another line. I'm going to stick it here into It's All Right. But it is actually shockingly good. So, there we go. There we go. We have officially ranked all of the games. Let me see what the final tally was, actually, because we ended up having some... because I haven't finished editing the first part of this, so I have to now check. So it was 126 games was the final tally, actually. Not whatever the other random number I said before was. Okay, but now we're done. Okay, so I need to stress here, of course, that this is not every single platformer that I've ever played. I'm sure that I have left out some big one that I'm gonna be kicking myself for not remembering. I feel good about this. In hindsight, this is pretty much how all of my rankings tend to go. The Nito territory is just way overbloated, but this shows you I love platformers. I absolutely adore these games. I love playing them. There's still a lot of room here in the Wahoo, and there are probably some really good games that I am forgetting about it. And not a lot that I actually openly, despise. Like, even some of the bad platforms that I've played, you might have noticed here, I tend to enjoy. So, that's that. But I hope that this has been an interesting set of videos for you. I hope you watched all the way to the end. I'm Hannu TheHande Mäkinen. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.